guys, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be unboxing a Barnes & Noble's craft kit that I found for $12, and then I'm going to be rating it based on how fun it is, how challenging it is, and if it's actually worth buying. So stay tuned! Looking at the box, I see that there are 4 different types of flowers you can make, and the materials are also listed. Inside the box, there's a roll of paper sheets, a little glue bottle, a small paintbrush, and some wire. This kit also includes a little thing of red paint and some stencils to make the flowers. Opening the book of instructions, I see that there are very detailed instructions for making these flowers. There's the option to make a peony, a cherry blossom, which looks so pretty, a star flower, and lastly a protea flower. I'm actually going to be starting with the cherry blossom flower first, and then maybe making the star flower next. The instructions start by having you laminate the flowers, and at first I thought they meant laminate like with plastic, but after reading this technique, it says to glue one side of the paper and fold it over to laminate it. I've never used this type of paper before, so this is new to me. After completing this step, the instructions then say to cut out the petals 1 or 2 at a time by folding the paper over on itself, but that was taking forever, so I decided to cut out 5 petals at a time, and I think I got the same results. Once I got the hang of it, this part wasn't so bad. Each flower needed 5 petals, so I probably made close to 60 petals. The next step I thought was interesting. The instructions have you do a technique called cupping the paper, which means to stretch out the petals to make them look more realistic. And this part does take a long time, but I think it's well worth it. Once I had my petals, I moved on to the next step. The instructions said to take the white sheet of paper that the kit provided, cut and fold it, and then make small little fringe cuts with a dab of red paint on the ends. At first I was confused on what I was making, but this is actually the inside of the flower. This is where the kit got a little bit interesting. I realized when cutting the white paper that the kit didn't come with a lot of the materials that were advertised on the box. Where was the blue paper? Where was the rest of the white paper? I looked in the trash, I looked in the box, everywhere. Turns out I did not read the instructions all the way. The box only comes with instructions for the star flower and protea flower, not the actual materials. This was a little bit disappointing since I was hoping to make the star flower next, since it was advertised on the box, but for $12, maybe I shouldn't be complaining. Anyways, I continued with the cherry blossom flower. The materials didn't include a wire cutter, so I had to use one of my own. Next, I'm making the inner part of the flower using the provided brown paper. This requires a bit of technique with the gluing process. The instructions also say to glue each of the individual petals on the flower, but that was not working for me. I tried so many different techniques here to get the flowers to stick, but what did end up working for me was gluing each of the flower petals on itself, and then gluing that line of petals on the flower bud. I actually prefer this technique a lot more because it made the gluing process a lot less stressful until I kept burning myself with the hot glue gun.
You serious?
I made a total of 15 of these cherry blossom flowers, which overall took about an hour and a half.
5 hours later.
And here's how they turned out. I think they look great considering that they're made out of paper. The next step was to make the little flower buds. The instructions said to use a napkin or a paper towel to make the flower buds, which was an interesting technique. I used a paper towel to make the flower buds. I'm not too sure if that made a big difference, but I trusted the process. The instructions said to use some pink paper to cover the tops of the bulbs, so I did that. This part, it took me a while to learn the wrapping process, but with some technique and some time and lots of trial and error, I did get the hang of it and it did turn out the way I wanted it to. Next, I moved on to making the flower stems. This part did take a while, but once you get the hang of it and don't overthink yourself like I did, they start to look great. The instructions were getting a little bit vague here. They did not tell you how to organize the flowers, so I had to rely on the example picture they provided us on the box. But it was super easy. I just added the flower buds on top and gradually added the flower stems on the bigger stem to make an even bigger flower. It tells you to wrap the flowers together, so I slowly made my way in doing that. I was a little bit hesitant during this part because it was the last step and I didn't want to mess up my whole flower, so I made sure that the brown paper was tightly wrapped on the flower stem, and then I also glued the very end of my flower stem so that it wouldn't unravel. Also, the instructions don't say to do this, but I wanted to do this anyways. I went ahead and posed the flowers and stems to appear more natural and realistic. And here's how they turned out. I actually like how these came out. And I think they look very realistic considering it's just made of paper. Using the rest of the leftover paper, I wanted to make one more flower. Since I couldn't make the blue flower, I decided to make the peony to see if the instructions were similar for this flower. This one was a lot more difficult, to be honest, and I'm really glad I did this one second. You have to make 9 different types of flower petals versus 1 for this flower, so I made a mess in doing this, and I actually did run out of paper. So just a heads up, if you end up getting this kit, just pick your favorite flower and go for it.
Do it!
I also organized and glued the flower petals the same way as the cherry blossom flowers, and it was so much easier instead of individually adding the petals. I fluffed the petals on this flower as well to give it that glow and realistic look. And the instructions also say to make the green stems and leaves of the flower using the provided templates, so I did that. I'm adding the stems here, and wow, that made a big difference in this flower. And here's how it turned out. I still like the cherry blossoms a little bit more, but I'm glad that I tried this flower out. Okay, so now I'm going to rate this kit. For fun, I'm going to give this kit an overall 4 out of 5 because I genuinely enjoyed it and I thought the instructions were super simple and the project was super fun. Difficulty, I'm going to give this kit a 3 out of 5 because there was some technique that you needed, but overall I would say this kit's pretty beginner friendly. Value, I'm going to give this kit a 5 out of 5 because for $12, I think you get a lot of material and you get some pretty flowers at the end of it. Overall, I'm going to give this kit a 4 out of 5. I liked it, I really enjoyed it, and I would recommend this kit to anyone that wants a simple, short craft that is beginner friendly. Anyways, thank you so much for watching, and if you want to see me make more videos like this, feel free to tag along, and I will see you in the next video. Bye!